Good morning to you all. Today I've decided to steam up some broccoli, so I'm gonna throw into my shallow pan a little bit of water and some chopped up broccoli florets. I'm using roughly about a head or two of broccoli, and indeed I will eat all of it. So just gonna put the lid on here and steam this until it's nice and tender. And in the meantime, I'm going to take two already steamed gold potatoes. I steam my potatoes in my Instant Pot, usually in bulk. That way I can just grab and go, as you see here. And I'm just gonna mash down these two potatoes until I get like a chunkier consistency. And I've been obsessing about eating this with my broccoli and then I air fry it together. Oh my gosh, I've been eating it almost every morning that I can actually take the time to prep this. Otherwise, once you air fry potatoes, if you don't eat them right away, they lose their crunchiness. You don't get that extra crisp. So adding in my steamed broccoli, I'm just going to continue to mash this into the potatoes just until it's chunky enough and mixed in enough, and then I'll be adding in my spices. You know, for a little bit, I was just steaming up some vegetables and potatoes and just throwing on some salsa and eating it like that. But it kind of loses its pizzazz after a while. So, air frying is just another cool technique you can use for potatoes and vegetables if you want to just eat your food in a different way that creates more interest and crunchiness. So, I'm adding in my favorite garlic powder. I add this stuff to just about everything. I love using the garlic powder, adds so much flavor. And then another favorite of mine is using the everything bagel seasoning. And this one is not salt free, it has some salt in it. So I know that they are salt free options if you choose to go SOS free. I'm not at the moment, so I'm just gonna mix in the everything bagel seasoning. And even though this is not a everything bagel itself, it comes pretty close to it. Adding this to my air fryer sheets, just making sure everything is kind of evenly coated so that the air can circulate. I'll be putting this into the air fryer at 400 degrees for about 15 to 20 minutes, just depending on how crunchy I want my potatoes to be. Now for this dish in particular, I chose to use ketchup with it, and I actually dip the potatoes and broccoli into the ketchup and eat it almost like kind of like a tater tot. It is so good. You can use like barbecue sauce, and I'm typically not a ketchup person, so I even surprised myself at how much I really like this. It is so good and filling. And after I eat my breakfast, I'm gonna go work out, do my little jog on the treadmill, and then I'll be back for lunch. So for lunch, I'm going to air fry some garbanzo beans or chickpeas. So I have some chickpeas that I've already soaked overnight. So it's roughly, I would say, equivalent to about a can of chickpeas drained. And then adding in, again, you guessed it, garlic powder, because it's good on everything. These are going to be really good in the air fryer because they're going to resemble croutons on the salad I'm going to be making. And I'm adding in some smoked paprika to give it a little bit more depth and flavor to it. And just making sure the seasoning is evenly coated as much as it can be. And then just following the same process I did for breakfast. So just making sure everything's nice and evenly coated. You can also do this in the oven. I believe you can cook this in your oven probably at the same temperature, like 400 degrees for 15 minutes. And then for my salad, I'm making almost like a Caesar salad, or my version of a Caesar. So using about a head and a half of romaine lettuce that I've chopped and washed. Just chopping it up, and this salad, it makes a really big serving. And after my workout, I'm pretty hungry. So I'll end up eating this entire salad and not feel one bit guilty about it. Using two little baby seedless cucumbers, I'm just gonna chop these up into bite-sized pieces and adding this to the base of my salad. For the dressing, I'm going to be adding in a can of northern beans that I've slightly drained, left some of the liquid in there, and toss it into my food processor. And then using the juice of one lemon, this is going to make a really good base for a fat-free Caesar dressing. Adding in a few cloves of garlic and then some low-sodium tamari sauce. This is not your traditional Caesar dressing, but when you eat a whole food plant-based diet, you kind of have to improvise. And then the cherry on top is going to be the nutritional yeast. That's going to add that cheesiness to it, a lot more flavor as well. And if you're not necessarily trying to lose weight and you're not looking for a low-fat or fat-free dressing, adding in some like walnuts would be really good, or some of those higher fat, more dense ingredients are going to make this more decadent. But if you're looking for like a nice low-calorie creamy dressing, using beans is a great way as a base. And then I'm mixing in my dressing with the salad base, making sure everything's coated as much as it can be before I add in the air-fried chickpeas, because once I add them in, they basically lose their crunchiness when they start getting introduced to the dressing. So I add those in absolutely last, mixing that in, and then eating the whole thing. It is literally in a mixing bowl. That's how big the salad is, and it's so good. So for dinner, I'm making a lentil chili in my Instant Pot. Added in a chopped up yellow onion already to my Instant Pot, set it to saute, throw in some water and some minced garlic, and then basically saute it for just a few minutes. And then in the meantime, I've already gone ahead and peeled and chopped a sweet potato and chopped up a whole carton of white button mushrooms that I'm going to be adding in once the saute process is done. So I've already cleaned and rinsed off my red lentils. I'm using about a pound of them and adding them to my Instant Pot. And this will give it that instant, like, meaty thickness to it. Adding in also a can of crushed tomatoes. My mom, I remember watching her do this when I was a kid. And after you emptied out the can of tomatoes, put in a little bit of water because there's always that extra bit around the edges. So adding in also a can of tomato paste to this, and this will give it extra thickness to it as well. Adding in quite a bit of chili powder, because what would chili be without chili powder? And then using that smoked paprika I used for lunch also in this. That's going to add another layer of depth and kind of smokiness to this chili. Oh, so good. Filling the majority of the pot up with water. I basically just filled it up with enough water to cover everything. And that way it's not too watery. It's going to be the right amount of thickness. And then just mixing everything together well so everything gets seasoned and cooked thoroughly. Setting my Instant Pot to manual. I'm cooking this for about 12 minutes. And that's really all you need. And in the meantime, I've gone ahead and steamed up some corn on the cob and some zucchini as well. And just adding a whole zucchini to my plate, doing kind of like a 50-50 plate. So one plate is going to be all vegetables. Even though it's not completely all non-starchy, it's still really delicious and good for you. And then the other half is going to be my starches on my other plate. I'm using a little bit of coconut aminos to just top the zucchini. The corn is so good, doesn't even need any kind of topping to it at all. And I've already cooked up some white rice, adding my lentil chili to it, and then I had some extra hummus I'm gonna add to the top with some hot sauce, and that will complete my dinner. Very filling, delicious, and you can have all this yummy goodness without feeling guilty about it.